Hello. So I have been home alone for 3 or 4 days. Well, not including the days I go to work, but as far as company goes, I haven't seen anybody in like 3 or 4 days. My husband is a frontliner as well. He is a firefighter medic, and with that comes not seeing each other often. So this is my audience. They won't be able to ask me questions, but I'm doing the best I can with what I have to work with. So I chose David Jackson as my artist to talk about and to teach about, and his infamous work capturing Emmett Till's brutal death. In August 1955, Emmett Till was an African-American teenager who reportedly whistled at a white woman, to which 4 days later, her husband and his half-brother went in and took Emmett from his bedroom and brutally murdered him by strangling him, I believe, with barbed wire, smashing his head, and then they dumped his body in a river in Mississippi. I think it's Tallahatchie River. His mother decided to do something different about this, and this was a time when lynching of African Americans, it just wasn't talked about. People brushed it under the rug, and so she wanted to make her voice heard, and she even said, to know that my boy died as a hero with these images submerging would be better to know that he died for nothing at all. So she invited the photographer David Jackson from Jet Magazine, and Jet Magazine was a magazine catered mainly to the African American population. And in the photo, one of the most historical photos is of Emmett Till laying in the coroner's office, fully exposed, and his parents are in the background. And it's a black and white photo, and it really is moving because in a time of grief and vulnerability, his mom chose to speak up and share what it's like to be related to the victim of this. It affects more than just the victim themselves. And more importantly, the movement that the civil rights movement needed to take off. So Emmett Till's mom did the unthinkable in that she decided to do an open casket. And many people flooded into the churches to see him, and her purpose of doing this was to share with others and, be the voice that Emmett Till no longer had. One interesting thing about this photo that I learned was it was these photos captured, oh my gosh, calm down. It was these photos captured by David Jackson that moved Rosa Parks herself to stay and, keep her bus seat. And I didn't know that, I thought that Rosa Parks, you learn about that, but there's always a reason for somebody's action, and Emmett Till's photos captured by David Jackson was one of those that really catapulted her actions, which became such a historical moment in the civil rights movement. You don't see many photos like this today. You don't see many photos like this in the past, and I think that's what makes this photo art, because it just speaks volume and it reaches out to people, and it just unveils the truth. And I think that that's what art is meant to do. It speaks for those who don't have voices. It unveils the truth when there are no words to speak. And even though these photos are hard to look at, it brings awareness to what the African American and all minorities were facing and are still facing. Also, the men that murdered him, they got quickly acquitted, because that time in this era sucks, and they weren't held accountable for their actions. But these photos by David Jackson allowed for this case to be remembered and not be another one that swept under the rug. And I just found that really moving. And I chose David Jackson and the Emmett Till photos because I'm very familiar with this case, and it's something that I have always found fascinating because it is so gruesome to look at, and it just shares such a powerful message. But since I don't have any questions from my audience, if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them. And happy quarantining, and stay safe and wash your hands, my friends. Bye.